It's live, and you can hear Matt getting hot under the collar.
It is warm here, guys.
Sweating for Albert Duraev, who's 2-1 in the UFC, taking on Jun Yong Park. Matt, Albert Duraev beat Chidi Njokuani his last time out, controversially, 8-8. Split down the middle MMA decision, scoring at 29-28 Duraev, 29-28 Chidi Njokuani. The golden buzzer. The Sean Sheehan golden buzzer going to Chidi Njokuani. Matt, I had a picture saved of Albert Duraev's face after Chidi Njokuani. It was a little marked up by his left eye, but it wasn't as marked up as his 2 fights that kicked him off in the UFC. Even if Albert Duraev wins fights now at 34, guy gets hit hard. He's a good grappler. He's not Rinat Fakhretdinov, but he's good. Albert Duraev, the former ACB double champ. He was at welterweight, couldn't make the weight anymore, had to move it up to middleweight. Somehow ended up on Dana White's Contender Series as a 4-0 or 4-1 favorite against Kyle Bittencourt. Gets the win there, but Matt Duraev, a lot of adversity in his fights. His takedowns are great. Can he keep it up for 3 rounds? Because Jun Yong Park, squirmy wormy when he gets taken down, if he does. And the weirdest part for me to go back and watch these fights to get ready for this is the fact that for Jun Yong Park, I thought, okay, what are his big skills on the big board? Well, his hand speed's great. He doesn't have a ton of power, but the hand speed's really good. And then I kind of almost let that take over the narrative, and I forgot. In every single one of the wins that Jun Yong Park has, he has to take his opponents down. And when he loses, he struggles getting taken down and against power punchers, so that could play out.
And all those things can be true in this matchup, and that's why it is so much fun. No matter what you thought of Duraev's last fight, whether he won it or lost it, let's just go into kind of the fight mechanics of it. He had his way with Chidi Njokuani on the mat in round 1 in that fight. He had a ton of success with what everybody assumed he was going to have success with. We all know how talented of a striker Chidi Njokuani is. He's long range, he can hit with straight shots. You guys all know who he is. Duraev decided, hey, I'm not even going to test that part of his game, and he had a ton of success with his top control in that matchup. And then after that first round was done, he decided to get into a lot more of those kind of 50-50 striking exchanges. And there's a part of me that thinks, okay, game plan-wise, it's not smart. He got the win, we'll just kind of put that to the back of your mind. But there's another part of me that is concerned that, okay, he's got those bursts for his takedowns, but what does he have after some of those long initial elongated grappling sequences? Because I don't even think it's a matter of he doesn't have it, like he's just going to go for it in the first round, then he might not have it in the second and the third. I just think it comes down to he's got it in the reserve until he burns it. And for Duraev, it's going to be interesting to see, A, if he's the first person to shoot in this matchup, because Jun Yong Park's the guy who likes to fight from a very close range when he is using his own boxing combinations, and that's going to open up the takedown not only for Duraev, but for Park himself. So I do think this fight's going to be really interesting, because A, they're going to be fighting at a very close range. I think this is going to be not a boxing fight per se, but I think those front feet are going to be almost touching, if anything. And I'm going to be really curious to see, how does Park do if he is flat on his back against Duraev? Because Park can grapple his way out of some sticky situations, but him flat on his back against a guy like Albert Duraev, who can really hold his opponent down and do good work for a long time and really make Park work out of some of those positions, I still think Park has the better cardio in the matchup, but that might be able to even it out as this fight goes down the stretch.
Park is a little bit more fleet of foot than the traditional boxer that's Roman Kopylov. And you saw it for Duraev when it was on the feet. A lot of success for Kopylov. When it was on the mat, a lot of success for Duraev. Duraev ends up getting the win in that one against Joaquin Buckley. That eye puffs up and it's over. And then if you look at it in his last time out against Chidi Njokuani, it was a good first round, a close second round. I thought Njokuani won the second and the third. I also picked Njokuani, so there might be a little bit of bias there, but I thought the shots were better. Regardless, Duraev gets a win on his record, and we move forward. So if you do look at this fight, again, for Jun Yong Park, we've seen him grapple with good grapplers. He outdid it against Marc-Andre Barrio, but then just like Marc-Andre against one Fluffy Hernandez, that was the downfall of Jun Yong Park, and he got finished in that one. And against Gregory Rodriguez, he finally showed off a little bit of that polished judo, and you saw them strike in a phone booth to the tune of its 2-round fight of the night. So for Jun Yong Park, will he mix it up? We'll see how it plays out in this one. We threw this one out to you guys in the YouTube community tab, Matt. About 1,000 votes on this one. 63% going with Albert Duraev to get the win. I'd like to know what people are thinking in the chat, because darn it, we're live for this one. But this is one of the fights where I probably had my hardest time trying to make a pick on the entire card.
I also had a really hard time, and I feel like people aren't going to expect me to pick Albert Duraev, but I am going to pick him in this matchup. I think his top pressure, and I brought it up earlier, I think it's going to even out this fight as it continues. Now, for Duraev, I have been quite critical, especially of some of the fight IQ that we have seen in his matchups, because he'll have a ton of success and then just kind of go away from the things that gave him that success. But against Park, I do think that because the range is going to be so close distance, unlike the Njokuani matchup, it is going to help him at least be that much closer for some of those takedown attempts. And that's why I do have the slight underdog in Duraev.
Yeah, Park is favored. Topology, it's Duraev that's got it as well.
That. I thought Park would be kind of a fan favorite. You know, people really enjoy watching him fight.
6-2 in the UFC so far, and for Duraev, 2-1. So interested to see what we get out of both these guys, because I think even though Park is a speedier fighter and he can get from point A to point B well, he can move laterally really well. If we're in a phone booth and Duraev's kind of throwing those Fakhretdinov type strikes that he will go to, that's where Duraev can have a ton of success and maybe even mask in the threat of his takedowns. We saw him do it with ACB all the way up. And Duraev, as I referenced earlier on in the night, his fourth fight, he was taking on a guy with almost 40 pro fights, if not more, that had been in the UFC. And then he fought Clifford Starks as well on the regional scene to get a win. This one's tricky. For me, I will go with Jun Yong Park here. I think, again, hand speed and the fact that he is a pretty darn good grappler, but when he loses, he gets out grappled. We're splitting the pick in this one. Let us know who you have in the matchup, Matt. There's things that Fight Night Picks fans hate. A, they hate it when we split picks. They hate it. They think that we conspire against them and pick these beforehand.
Like the League of Super Evil.
But they don't know. The second part, they hate it when the graphic doesn't pop up if we do a live show.
Is number 3 a Holly Holm main event?
I don't know how I'm supposed to read Matt's mind to pop a graphic up for what his pick's going to be when sometimes I don't even know what mine's going to be.
We're not
before
twins,
I tape
guys.
It. The second thing... People don't like a Holly Holm main event, but gosh darn it, it's the 10th 5-rounder in Holly Holm's career. Get excited for it! Holly Holm's up next. Keep it locked in with Fight Night Picks, we always say.
Let's get into it.